Hey, there's a massive opportunity. If you've got any alts in the 30 to 40 range with a stack of rested XP, and you want the easiest leveling and gearing of basically your whole life, don't waste this opportunity. Matt got his rogue from level 46 all the way to 60 in around 3 hours of playtime, and in the meantime, he grinded just enough of the event currency to completely gear the character from eye level 154 to 252 as soon as he dinged, so that's it, completely ready for Dragonflight leveling, which is balanced to be pretty much around that item level. So to say that this is crazy is really underselling it. It may not be that much faster for just XP than efficiently leveling, but it's the least amount of effort that leveling and gearing has ever taken. So let's get into how. The main idea of this event is to farm mobs and the occasional boss to get bind on account primeval essences, which you trade in for gear. And it succeeds in that, but it's also a pretty crazy XP farm. The key here is that it's a never-ending wave of mob spawns, and around every 20 minutes, a boss appears. The packs that spawn from the portals usually have a few regular mobs and then an elite. Those normal ones give just over 1% of a level per kill, and the elites give about 3%. While that may not sound like very much, there's a few things that make this absolutely crazy though. First, infinite and rapid mob spawns. It never stops, meaning there's effectively zero downtime, unlike literally everywhere else in the game. Second then, is the sheer amount of players. Lots of players, of course, means lots of kills. Now this means there could be a few times where you might struggle to tag a mob, but one of the biggest wins is that elites do not have a tagging limit. So more players means, well, less mobs tagged normally, but it does mean more elites that spawn, and those can be tagged by everybody, and that makes up for it. Third then is that all of this XP is from killing mobs, which means it gets the 100% bonus of rested XP. Now that means that it just doubles your speed, no ifs or buts. If you have parked alts level 10 or above, you can spend an hour or two to completely drain their rested XP bar and just nuke up the levels like crazy. Fourth then is that this is extremely easy. With questing, you have to do quests. With dungeons, you have to queue, follow a tank around, and it might actually take a little bit of effort. This is literally just running around in circles tagging mobs for as long as you want. In a way, it is boring, I won't deny that, but hey, look how much time so many of us spent killing gulp frogs in the Timeless Isle back in the day, and we lived back then. Just make sure, though, to turn your sound effects down, because it really is a lot on screen. But fifth is a good point that this actually is the most MMO-y that WoW has felt in a while. Just the act of mindlessly farming the same few mobs for a low drop rate currency in a zone utterly jammed with players feels kinda right. The enemies are simple, your frame rate will be in the single digits, but it's some weird type of MMO fun. So if you want to do this for yourself, here are the details on how much you'll actually need to gear up. So, getting the full set, it's 290 essences, then 25 for the cloak, though if you want all 4 cloak appearances, that'll be an extra 75. One-handed weapons and offhands cost 25, two-handers cost 45. That means that demon hunters, rogues, enhancement shamans, frost DKs, prot paladins, and prot warriors will need 50, but most others will need 45, and fury warriors will need 90. So, tough luck for you. Rings and necklace are all 25, so that'll be 75 for all 3. Trinkets are 45, so that's 90 for both. So in total, if you want to fully gear up, most specs will need 525 essence, 530 for dual wielders, and fury warriors, 570. Then add 5 to that if you want the reagent bag. It's actually the only one that's available in-game right now, but I will note that when Dragonflight launches, you do kinda get one for free pretty quickly anyway. Now, if you want all the appearances, you're going to need 1160 for the 4 armor sets, an extra 100 for all 4 cloaks, so that's 1260 in total for the armor, and if you want all the new weapons, then that's an extra 380, bringing the total up to 1640, added an extra 100 if you want to get the critter vacuum toy, so that's 1740. Now, these are all sold at level 60, so you'll need a capped alt of that armor type to actually unlock them. And in our experience, getting the full 1740 essences should take around 10 to 11 hours based on our rough rates of acquisition, but there are some ways you could make it less daunting. Number 1, the mobs have a very small chance of dropping gear and weapons for your level, with Matt reporting an average of 1 drop per hour, though obviously that can vary greatly. Second then, the essences drop in big chunks from the boss that spawns in every 20 minutes. You can AFK and fly nearby and tab back on a timer if you're purely there for the essences and you just want to have maybe a beep in your watch or phone that tells you to look at WoW again. You can totally do that. It's on a timer. Third, every character gets a burst of 120 essences. 60 comes from turning in a quest item, the Sigil of Storms, that drops once per character. Then 30 comes from the quest that Khadgar will give you. Follow the Dragon Isles Await quest chain that pops up to get that. And after turning in, he will start a repeating daily quest for 30. There's also then the Heirloom Trinket. Each type of elemental boss has a decent chance to drop an item that basically, you combine one item of all 4 elements and you get the new trinket. So you'll definitely have to wait for a few cycles to get all 4 elements, but it's pretty easy if you're doing this for the gears, for the gear and the levels anyway. The trinket itself, though, doesn't seem that good in our limited testing. It's a stack stick. Basically, it's a stat stick with an underwhelming damage proc. But hey, the effect looks cool. Anyway, hopefully we've convinced you that this is a pretty decent way to get some levels and gear all at the same time while progressing through the event and unlocking yourself some nice mogs. Okay, tips. Number 1, use talents. Talent into whatever gives you the most ability to tag mobs. So the more AoE, the better. The longer the range it is, the better. If you're a healer, obviously swap to your DPS spec. If you're melee, swap to a range spec. Everything you can do to just be able to tag more mobs. Tip 2, don't be afraid to reposition. If the boss goes down and you notice most of the players leave and the mob killing has slowed down, that's when you should go somewhere else. Each of the zones are positioned to be very quick from the Cataclysm portals. Just take the Ultim portal and fly north to Ungoro, take the Hyjal portal and fly south to the Northern Barrens, and the Badlands, of course, is just south of the Twilight Highlands portal. Obviously, the Horde can get to the Barrens from Orc, and the Alliance are pretty close to the Badlands anyway, but it's only a 5-minute trip at most to another zone, especially if your Hearthstone is set to a capital city. Don't be AFK unless you need to. In a zone full of players, it can be tempting to just stand in one area, press a button every now and then. We found it's a bit faster and a bit more engaging though when you actively run about the place tagging mobs. The distance between portals is enough that you can tag twice as many mobs if you run back and forth, so really do. Tip 4, if you're bored, park your character and come back later. As we said, rested XP literally doubles how much you get, so if you don't feel like doing it today, maybe farm it out tomorrow and just park your character in an inn and get some rested XP now. Obviously, the counterpoint here is you'll still want to farm out enough Primeval Essence to gear up, so yeah, you'll have to put in the hours some way. Tip 5, all the currency is account bound. So do whatever the hell you want. If you find you've hit 60, but you don't have the currency needed to fully gear, you can start another alt, even if you don't want to gear it up now, and then you can just mail the essence currency over to the alt you actually want to do the stuff on. Tip 6 then, don't burn yourself out. You can just park your characters and do this for like 10 to 15 minutes at a time, maybe while listening to a YouTube video, reading dinner or something. Getting every reward for this event is quite a job, but if you're just leveling and gearing like one character from the mid-40s to 60, it's actually a good time. And then finally, remember the heirloom bonus, right? So the set bonus for heirloom items will basically make your rested XP go 60% further, which obviously does mean that the very bountiful period of rested XP for this event will last longer if you're using your heirlooms. All in all then, this is a pretty nice event. It is Blizzard loosening the reins on gearing and leveling so that people just have something to do. I suppose actually a bit like with the Legion pre-patch, though not as insane. So there you go. Makes sense. Maybe something to do on your new Drakthir Evoker. Of course, I would say to you, we have been working on our Dragon series. It is the hardest we've basically ever tried at lore content. It's, well, made possible by the awesome people who are our patrons. And if you want to check out the first episode of that on Rathian, just click the box. So hop over there, enjoy it, and I'll see you next time.